Hey everyone, welcome to the Shut Up and Do It podcast, the place you can come and hang out with us while we go through all things real estate with a focus on bringing you top quality topics and speakers, all who believe in a get it done manner. I'm your host, Nick Allerud, creator of the complete Deal Flow system and principal with AA Real Estate Group, along with my partner and co-host, the Deal Flow expert, sales trainer, the lead gen machine, the leader of the Solutions Group, the broker and the Esquire, Robbie Retzel. Wow. What's up, Rob?
That's quite an introduction. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. I'm doing very well today.
Are you? How well are you doing?
It's my birthday, actually.
I was just going to bring that up. I think it's good.
Yeah.
This is 24, roughly?
Yeah, 24. No, actually 22.
22. That's awesome. Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
You can almost not play poker like you used to 20 years ago.
There you go.
I'm really looking forward to today. We have an awesome guest with us. This young lady has been with our firm, I'd say, for at least, 5, 6, 7 years. And her name is attorney Brandy Schlesinger. She is a real estate attorney, started in the paralegal world. I'll let her get into more of her history. But she handles pretty much all investor, all commercial stuff. She's got crazy stuff going on with investor deals, both good and bad. And I'll let her get into that too. She's also a big, a couponer. Can I say that here? Is that okay?
No, that's a secret.
Oh, secret. All right, never mind. All right,
and that's one of those questions we were talking
about. You found
it. All right, I've crossed the line. I like it. Ladies and gentlemen, Brandy Schlesinger. Brandy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for having me. Looking forward to chatting today, for sure.
That's do you want to start?
Happy birthday, Rob.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Exciting. So I feel so special to be able to do this with you on your birthday.
Yes.
Yes.
Quite a celebration.
As you can tell. See all the candles and birthdays everywhere? No, I'm just kidding.
I can see that. I'm sure there's balloons right above you there, for sure.
Brandy, if we can start, if I can just ask you kind of, what started your passion, either being an attorney in general or, then maybe your approach into real estate? Like, how did that all happen?
Yeah, so I would love to tell you that my whole family has attorneys in it, and I come from a long line of attorneys, and I knew from the womb I wanted to be an attorney. But that's not the case. For me, I was in college. I was doing my undergrad at a tiny college in New Hampshire called Colby Sawyer. And I was probably 4 months out from graduating. And I was sitting in the dining hall one day talking to my friend about what I wanted to do. I had 0 job prospects. I was getting a degree in psychology. I knew that I didn't want to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I had literally no idea what I wanted to do. Her and I shared some conversation that day. She said, hey, you're graduating with honors. You've got all this stuff. You're so smart. You could do anything. And I was thinking to myself, all right, what's really hard? What can I do that people think is really hard? So we sat down and talked about it. I decided that being a doctor is not for me. I don't do blood. Math is not my strong point. So we thought about it, and I thought the next best thing would be to become an attorney. That's a hard thing to do. That would take a lot of time. So I graduated, and that kind of started my journey. I got some various jobs in some different attorneys' offices. I knew I didn't want to be a litigator. I'd seen, I think, one too many court dramas, too many law and orders. Knew that wasn't going to be my life. So instead, I worked in some offices that did elder law, trust and estates, probate work, kind of jumped around a little bit looking for something that I liked to do. And I ended up meeting an individual in Somerville, an attorney who is just starting, kind of getting off the ground, who did real estate. And he gave me a chance to be a paralegal, which literally the only 2 things I knew about real estate were that you buy houses and you need money to do so. That's about all I knew. So he kind of,
you don't even need to sell them. You just keep buying.
Right, exactly. See, very narrow-minded at that point. In my very early 20s, but he gave me a chance. We were in his quote unquote office in Somerville, which many offices in Somerville are. They're kind of 2 families that are offices, but they're not really offices. So I sat in a kitchen where I could reach back to the stove and the microwave, and that's where I sat and I learned all about real estate. And I loved it. I loved everything about it. So that's kind of where my journey started.
That's all. Did he have you like fixing the plumbing too behind you? Like,
Luckily, no. I didn't have to do any of that. But if I wanted to, microwave a hot cocoa or something, or grab something out of the fridge, I could certainly just wheel my chair around and do it. It was very
that's Rob. How come you didn't jump into real estate? You went into the IP stuff. It just it sounds like a license to steal is what it sounds like.
A license to steal. Oh yeah, right. Absolutely.
Anyway, I guess that's crossed the line too. Never mind. We'll edit this part out. No. Brandy, so in that whole journey of yours, you must have come across, what was, I guess, the most important part of making that transition into real estate? And then, of course, becoming the attorney and moving from paralegal into lawyer, like what was kind of the hardest and coolest parts about that?
Yeah, so once I was, like I said, I was working in Somerville with this one attorney. I loved real estate, so I kept moving forward with the applications to get into law school and taking the LSAT and all that good stuff. Him and I actually ended up parting ways right around the same time I got accepted into law school, which is when I moved to where I am now. And I did the paralegal work in the day, and I went to law school at night, which was really fun and exciting. As far as real estate itself goes, I really loved everything about it. It was very different from what I had tried before as far as the elder law and the trust and estates. That's very slow moving. It was just very different from real estate. Real estate is very fast paced. You get to work with a lot of different kinds of people. Everything from loan officers to real estate agents to buyers and sellers. And the previous types of law I was dabbling in just didn't have any of that. So I got hooked immediately. The fast-paced nature of it, the emails blowing up, the everything needs to be done yesterday that was totally me. That fit my personality perfectly. And then as I went through law school and continued to do real estate, mostly residential at this point. So it was a lot of the loan officers and a lot of the marketing to them and the buyers and sellers, first-time home buyers and that sort of thing. Finally graduated from law school, passed the bar, and then kind of moved into more of a management role and attorney role, obviously. And for me, I never really let go of the paralegal role completely. So I still do a lot of my own kind of processing of files. So I still order payoffs and insurance binders. I still do all of that, which I like because I'm kind of a control freak. I like to be able to control everything and know when it's going to get done. So I still do a lot of that as well, but the transition allowed me to take on a lot more roles. It was really cool because I wouldn't ever be at the table and meet all these people. What I knew of the people was always just their email or their voice on the phone. So it did open a door for me to be able to do more and to really enjoy what I do even more.
That's sure. Awesome. Okay, so that's kind of the day-to-day, doing closings, that kind of stuff, P&S review. I mean, I'm sure there are a million other things that you do on a day-to-day basis, but just to kind of change gears a little bit and talk about investors, because I know you work with a lot of investors. Right. So I guess very quickly, and there are a million answers to this question, but why is it important for anyone starting out investing to really get good legal counsel?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different reasons, as you said. Investors they usually don't have, sometimes they don't have a real estate background. A lot of investors come from, working with money, venture capitals or, that sort of thing, banking backgrounds. Right. So they don't know the law, they don't know real estate, they don't know what title insurance is, they don't know what title is. Mm-hmm. So getting an attorney just to kind of hold their hand and guide them through the process, I think is really huge. Mm-hmm. We can explain a lot of things to them, what sort of contracts they want to be using, because those vary too, depending on what you're doing as an investor. Your first-time home buyer purchase and sales agreement is going to be drastically different from a purchase and sales agreement that's designed around a wholesale agreement. Getting to know the investor, where they're at, and kind of plugging and playing with them on what they need to make sure that they can succeed, I think is really important.
That makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's cool. It's funny because when I started... Go ahead, Rob.
No, after you. After you.
Gene mentioned title and title underwriting, and it's funny because even having been in the business for a bunch of years, I remember finally it was your firm that kind of talked to me about exactly what title and title insurance was, because I'm like, who cares about titles? We just want to make money. Like, let's just buy and sell as fast as we possibly can. Like, forget this stuff. I have to pay an extra fee on this HUD. And not only that, maybe you've heard this before, Brandy, the lender gets title insurance. Why do I need it? Right?
Believe it or not, yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. They just don't understand that, and that is something that's hugely important, especially with investors, because they are buying and selling so quickly. So again, when you're talking about someone who's buying a house and staying in it for a long time, they have that policy and they have it forever. But when you're talking about someone who's buying and selling quickly, if something got missed somewhere, or if, every attorney really does look at things a little bit differently. So some attorneys might bring things up that other attorneys don't, but either way, you're totally covered if you have that title. So there's just so many reasons that it's important. And again, investors usually have no idea what it is. It's just a charge to them. But being able to explain it to them so they understand it, and comes to the point now where most of our investors ask us, is the title insurance on there? Are you sure? Am I all set? And we're like, of course you are. So
right.
Good.
It's
all good.
You have this is your one shot to tell the people though, why is it that you need an owner's title versus a lender's title?
Of course. So the lender's title insurance policy covers your lender. That's why it's called a lender's title insurance policy. So that covers your lender if there's an issue. The owner's is your policy. It's what covers you. The lender's title insurance is not going to cover you if there's an issue. If there's something that comes up on your resale, it absolutely is not going to do anything for you. You need the owner's policy in order to be able to tap into that, to have them fix title, have them indemnify, which basically means, yes, you can go ahead and sell. We'll fix this issue later. You can't get any of that with the lender's title insurance, so it's not the same.
Gotcha. So I buy a house for $200,000. I put in $100,000 worth of work. It's now I have $300 into that house, right? I'm going to sell it for $400,000. Someone comes back with a title issue saying, maybe I don't actually own that house, right? Maybe 1,500 years ago, I just made that up. Somebody else, like a dog, was on title.
Probably not 1,500.
I know, maybe not. But if
Right.
a dog was on title incorrectly or something, and we can't get a release from that dog, the lender will get their whole investment back, right? But then we get nothing if we don't have an owner's title policy.
Correct. That's exactly it. Yeah, that's correct. So if you have nothing, you're basically, you could go and find the dog. Of course, that's, and do it yourself, but you don't have that type of time. You don't have the type of energy. You're on to the next project at this point, right? So to be able to just make a phone call to a title insurance company or to our office, and we'll make the phone call, that's going to save you tons of time and effort and tons of money. So yeah, of course.
Awesome. All right, I've got one more bomb, and then I'll let Rob take back over. But how about this, Brandy? I heard a lot of people in our industry start in wholesaling, right? Because that's like, we teach this. It's kind of like a great strategy to start with, to learn deal flow, to learn rules of buying, to make your contacts, to learn how to market to people. But lots of people say that wholesaling is illegal. So from the legal side, why is wholesaling illegal or legal, depending on your perspective?
Yeah, so wholesaling is not illegal. It is not. It is perfectly legal. Obviously, you need to disclose that as long as there's disclosure that you're not pretending you're a real estate agent when you're not a real estate agent, that you're taking an assignment fee, you're getting something for this, then there's nothing wrong with those contracts. Of course not. Absolutely.
That's cool. Can you lead us through like an assignment of contract, like kind of how that would actually play out for people?
Yeah, so on a typical wholesale deal, you sign, you have party A who found the deal from the seller, right? They have them sign a purchase and sales agreement, an offer, whatever it may be. That purchase and sales agreement and offer allows the buyer to then go ahead and assign the contract, right? So he can assign it, she can assign it to whomever they want to assign it to for a fee, right? So then you have the next document once you find usually it's a 1 or 2 page contract that lays out the terms. That says specifically that you are assigning your purchase and sales agreement that you have between the seller So you're assigning that whole contract to the person you found, whoever the end buyer is. You're doing so. End buyer is taking over all of the terms of that contract. That means if there's a closing date in there, or if there's an agreement in there that says that you're going to take the property with all of the trash in it, which we see a lot of times, that all carries on to the end buyer. And also included in the assignment contract is the fee that the end buyer is going to pay you. So end buyer signs that, you as the person who is under contract, the original PNS, sign that as well, and you're all basically on the same page. Everything's perfectly legit.
That's
cool.
That's awesome.
Right.
So wait, Robbie, people
Yeah.
pay thousands of dollars for what she just laid out in the course of 3 minutes.
Oh man, I should have billed for this. I should have billed.
Definitely should have built for that.
It's
Cool.
crazy.
Cool.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I mean, there are a couple of states now that are trying to shut down wholesaling. Ohio, Florida being the most, I guess, the biggest headline, making the biggest headlines at least. But it's really just the the realtor, the association of realtors for those states kind of clamping down and deciding that they want to try to outlaw that type of activity. So who knows? It might come down the pipe in Massachusetts at some point, but not right now.
I can see that happening, especially potentially in this state where you have such a strong association of realtors and you have such a strong attorney presence.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I could see that happening someday potentially. But yeah, as of today, no, there's nothing wrong with it. And of course the realtors are upset because they're, you're having things that people are getting paid on deals, and it's kind of taking them out of the equation. They're not needed anymore in those specific circumstances. So
yeah, exactly. I don't know how you take away though the assignment of your equitable interest. How do you outlaw that? I guess I could just say you can't change the or the buyer on the.
That'd be interesting to see what they put on the books for it.
Yeah, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested. I mean, so everyone kind of agrees that we're near the top of the market right now, or depending on who you ask, investors definitely. Are you seeing an uptick in any types of transactions that you're doing more of right now than anything else, or has it kind of stayed steady the last few years?
I think that really that goes back to location. Yeah. So I would say that it's been steady for us, but different locations are getting hotter than other locations. Everybody talks about the city. Obviously, cities are very, very hot right now, and you're still seeing things like condo conversions and that sort of thing. Same goes with Salem is pretty hot right now too. Condo conversions are a big thing there. But we're also seeing a lot more coming out of, say, the Worcester area, Worcester County. Not really condo conversions, because I think the values are just different out there. It's more of a lower mid-market as opposed to the higher end market that you're seeing in some of the areas I mentioned before. But that is, I would say, definitely a hot area right now where we're seeing a lot more business. So to answer your question, it's definitely steady. It just depends. The business comes from different places.
Right.
And that's changing, and you can see that that's going to change. So different areas light up, like Worcester County right now, and I am coming out of an estate, whatever it may be, and renovating it quickly, which is what it used to be everywhere, and now it's kind of changed a little bit.
Right.
That's cool. What was the coolest and coolest case you ever had? Let's start there, Brandy.
The coolest one, I don't know.
Like maybe you pushed your limits, like it pushed you maybe weren't really comfortable with it, but like you kind of researched it, you got in there, you figured it all out, or something just pushed you a little bit out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have one example, honestly. I would say that literally when I started working with investors, everything was doing that. I come from a residential background, and to me, a corporation is like, it's not a real person. It's a Wells Fargo, it's a Bank of America. It's you dial a 1-800 number and you don't actually get a person on the phone. But as I kind of got into learning what corporations really were, they're people, they're you, they're Rob, they're me. They're not scary. I think that kind of changed my life with the investors. So that in and of itself was very cool for me to learn how that sort of thing worked. I don't know if I have one specific deal though. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of title issues too. So we get titles back where foreclosures were done wrong, where people died out and they never filed probate, and the heirs have just been living in the property for say 60 or 70 years. So you have to kind of go back and unwind all that, which is really cool for me. I'm kind of a nerd like that. But yeah, I don't think I have one specific example though.
Okay. What's the hardest case you ever had?
Hardest one. So hardest is another tough one. So I think for me, the hardest cases are usually the ones where emotions get involved. So when back in the mid 2000s, when we started really seeing the uptick in foreclosures and the short sales, there were a lot of emotions at the table. So people were losing their houses and getting upset. So that's hard for me. Those were very difficult. And then of course, anytime you have a divorce, someone's getting divorced, that's really difficult. As far as the non-emotional side, I would say the hardest ones are where there's something wrong that's completely out of anyone's control. So for example, I had a deal in a city where I was representing the seller, and the seller was selling his property, and he owned, say, 2,000 square feet. That's how big his lot was. I'm, again, using round numbers here. And he was taxed on only 1,000 square feet. His neighbor behind him was being taxed on 1,000 square feet of his land. And it had happened through 3 or 4 transfers in each property, and had never been caught by any of the attorneys until, of course, my seller, the buyer's attorney for my seller, caught it. And now it becomes a huge issue because that's not in a purchase and sales agreement. His title says that he owns the 2,000 square feet, but now you have a city involved, and you have the city saying, oh, well, you owe this other owner thousands and thousands. The most difficult type are ones where it's someone else made a mistake and you have to now go and kind of correct it.
Wow. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, very exciting stuff, that's for sure. But it happens, you never know when this sort of thing is going to happen, and we see it all the time. So
yeah.
You mentioned that, the P&S is different for an investor as opposed to a first-time home buyer. And most investors don't really have a legal background. So a lot of times I imagine people approach it, if they don't have an attorney, they just don't even know what they don't know. What do you see as the biggest pitfalls for newer investors?
From a legal perspective, I would say the biggest pitfall is exactly what you said, not knowing what they don't know. So let's say you have an investor, for example, who wants to wholesale. He's just getting in. He's got a great deal. He found it. He has a purchase and sales agreement that he found online or from a workshop or whatever. It doesn't have the right terminology in it to assign. He signs that. He's under contract now to buy this property, and he can't assign it without express written permission from seller, who maybe doesn't understand what an assignment was. She's very comfortable with buyer. She doesn't want new buyer involved, so forth. So pitfalls are not knowing what they don't know. It's going to cost them time and money, and potentially their first or second deals could go south because of it.
I don't understand though, because my mentor in Texas says this works every single time. He does so many deals with this. I just don't get it.
Yes, I've reviewed many of those packets actually, and laws are different here. They're different, and don't believe what you hear all the time.
Oh yeah, it's really a shame because you have these guys saying, "Oh, this contract works in every state across the country." They literally are telling people this. They're not attorneys themselves, so and they and you signed a disclaimer that said you're not taking anything as legal advice from this person, and they're just and they don't want to hire an attorney. Yeah, it's an issue, definitely.
It's crazy.
And it's worth it. It's worth it to get a consultation from an attorney and just sit down. And as far as my office specifically goes, this isn't even something we typically charge for. If someone wants to call me and have a conversation with me, I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'd love to start your business and help you keep going. I'm not going to send you a bill for that time. I just hope you get the deal and then you come back to us.
Wow.
That's good to know.
That's my little promo right there.
For now, and then a few weeks.
Oh yeah.
That's a limited time offer, folks. Limited time.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. Rob and I have been through, at this point, I mean, jointly over $100,000 worth of training. And I got to tell you, we have stacks and stacks and stacks
Yeah.
of contracts, of lease option forms, of wholesale assignment deals. I even have deeds. Like, I'm not going to embarrass myself and say that in 2005, I might have done something that a coach told me to do without having it run by an attorney with a deed. I shouldn't even go into that. But crazy stuff out there. And this, I mean, just the fact that you're even on here with us today for the limited amount of time, I think you're giving tons of awesome information. So it's crazy. If you had one thing either to put on a billboard or just a tip for, so the first tip you just gave, right, is no matter what contracts people are using from across the country, or if they're just getting started in real estate, just to call you, just to go through the scenario, just to, is this okay to do in mass? Is it not? If you had one other thing to sort of tell all the investors across the country, if you would, like on a billboard or just like shaking them to say something to them, like what would be your one liner or your one tip that you could give to them?
I mean, besides hire an attorney, it would be listen to your attorney, because that's the other big pitfall is you give out this advice and then people do the exact opposite, and then they come back to you and they're upset because something didn't go right, or they have a huge holdback at closing, or whatever it is, because they didn't heed the advice. Or not just an attorney, but if you're starting right off the ground, partner up with another investor. That's worth its weight in gold to get you through your first deal or so. So I would say between those two things, that's not really one liner, but partner and listen. How about that? That'd be my billboard.
Nice.
That's a good one. I'm going to do a throw over to Tim Ferriss and ask one question he always asks of people, which I really love. What's one purchase under $100 that you've made that like changed your world?
Ooh, okay. Let me think about this one for a minute. A purchase under $100 that changed my world.
Yep. Sometimes it's a piece of technology. Sometimes it's just like a pair of headphones. It's a book. Like, what do you think would be that one purchase that you made over your entire lifetime?
Oh gosh. Okay.
Besides the My Little Ponies. Well, I had those. I don't know if you had those, but.
Under $100. Let's see.
That was an unfair question.
I'm stumped. I'm trying to think of something witty and I'm having trouble. I think that, let's see, under 100 that changed my life.
Okay, we can go a little over 100 then. I mean, I'm not trying to, say that.
No, you're good. You're good. I guess, you know what? Honestly, for me, this is going to sound boring, but it would probably be my law school, any of my law school books, my LSAT book, any of those things that got me through that time period would probably be it for me to try to, because without, going that first step and buying that book or whatever it may be, I don't know, and maybe it never would have come true. I have no idea, so taking that first step and getting that little LSAT study book and knowing that this is actually real at this point, not just something silly that I talked about at lunch, I think that would probably be it for me.
That's awesome. Hey, Robbie, I never asked you that question. Do you have an answer for that one?
Under $100?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's a good question.
Right?
For neither one of us would it be a razor. I'll tell you that much.
No, definitely not. It's probably the what is it called? It's it's like the multifamily investing Bible or something like that.
Gotcha.
Title of it, but yeah, that would probably be it.
Excellent. Multifamily is always very sexy to the eyes of all of us. Brandy, you handle multifamily, right?
No.
Is that, but for a limited time. So in 30 days, we can count on you for multifamily stuff. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. All right.
Whatever you need.
That's cool. That's all right.
I have one last really important question. What are you watching on Netflix right now?
I'm watching The Punisher on Netflix right now.
Oh.
I love The Punisher. That's probably my favorite show right now. So I'm watching that.
Good TV.
That's awesome.
Yep, that's the truth.
Brandy, we so appreciate you coming on the podcast today. The last and final question would be, how can people get a hold of you? Where do you want them to go, and what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, so for me, I'm on email like all the time. when I'm in or out of the office. So that's probably going to be the best way to get in touch with me. Email address is, should I give it here?
Sure. Yeah, we can put it in the notes too, but go ahead. You can give it out.
Okay. So it's just my name. It's just Brandy at grinellilaw.com. You can check the notes, I guess, for spelling and all that sort of stuff. So that's usually the easiest way to get in touch with me. I'm on my email more than I should be day and night, as I'm sure everybody who is in this business is. So that's the best way to get in touch with me for sure.
That's awesome. Cool, Brandy. I guess anything else you wanted to add to the investor world before we sign off?
No. I mean, I guess thank you, because investors have really changed the way that we do business, both myself and my partner, Meg, which I know a lot of investors work with, obviously. We come from residential backgrounds, so we come from a background where people are a lot different than investors are. Investors tend to be a lot easier to work with. For the most part, they listen to us. We like that. And they always bring us stuff that keeps us learning every day, which is awesome and keeps us interested in doing this job. So I'd like to say a little thank you.
That is awesome. I'll do one final shout out to both Brandy and Meg for their firm. I mean, I had gone through 7 attorneys before finding them about 5 or 6 years ago, and you guys in turn have completely changed the way we do business and changed the way that we handle transactions now too. It's been incredible to have the world open both ways, I guess. So I'll give you a personal thanks as well. That's been awesome. So
thank you. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. Happy to keep it going, right?
Cool stuff. We're going to go and take Robbie out to a club to celebrate his birthday today. Well, maybe not, but we'll find something good.
Yeah, good luck. I don't know how much fun they have down there in Woburn. What do they got? They got like a Red Robin?
Probably.
Red Robin's a solid club though, so for sure.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And I mean, we're looking forward to kind of posting this. We'll be posting this in a couple weeks, so we'll be seeing it.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandy.
All right.